I've been using Fusion 360 for a couple of weeks now, and in this video I want to show you why it's going to be a critical part of my 3D printing business. What's up, guys? Thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Nate Hibbert, and I am a graphic designer for an e-commerce business that I started with my brother, but I love challenging myself to learn new skills. The current skill I'm working on is 3D printing. I'm hopeful, very hopeful, that I can take it from a personal interest and actually turn it into a profitable wing of our business. So I started this channel to track my progress and hopefully help anyone out there who wants to learn from my mistakes. My current mistake, and one that I've been making over the last couple of weeks, is just spending too much time learning software that isn't going to actually benefit my business. I'm feeling very confident, and I'm happy to report this, that I think my hunt for finding this 3D modeling software that fits my needs has actually come to an end. Just a few days after trying SketchUp for the first time, I downloaded Fusion 360, and as soon as I opened that program, things really just started to click. So I'm not saying it's going to be perfect for everyone, but as far as what I was looking for, and even just my excitement about the tool kind of went through the roof as soon as I started playing around inside of it. I'm not 100% sure where this excitement came from, but I know it was as soon as I opened the tool that it reminded me of using a program like Photoshop or Illustrator, which are two tools that I'm very comfortable with. Inside of Fusion, as soon as you start to open it up, you can be very accurate with like just making a drawing and then bringing that into a 3D space, which is exactly kind of what I was looking for inside of my head. And there were a couple of other functions that I figured out early on that made me very excited, especially again as someone who knows Illustrator pretty well, that I could actually import files from Illustrator and make them 3D objects, which really just like expanded my view and my understanding of what I could do with this tool. So yeah, that definitely was a step in the right direction. But instead of me just talking about, let's go ahead and jump into some over the shoulder. I can show you the basics of Fusion 360 and the things that I've learned thus far. First things first, let's talk about how you actually get Fusion 360. I am here on their website. It is actually made by Autodesk, the same people who make Tinkercad, just something noteworthy. But if you look at this website here, you're going to see that it wants you to subscribe or do a free download trial. If you scroll down, it's going to tell you all the wonderful things about this tool, so definitely worth a read and a looking at this website when you go to download it for yourself, if you decide to download it for yourself. But it is a subscription-based tool. Like, this is made for major manufacturing and large companies. But if we go to this download a free trial button, we'll see that there are a couple of different things that we can download. If we wanted to use this for commercial use, which we'll actually talk about that in just a second, you would have to do your free trial or subscribe to it with that other button. But what we're doing here and what I want to cover right now is for personal use. So we can get a 1-year subscription for personal use. So let's go ahead and check in exactly what that means. So as we look at this page, we can see that it's professional level CAD program, which is exactly what I wanted. They even show some 3D printing here, which is awesome. But it says that it's for individuals who must be learning outside of company environment, commercial training, outside of their primary employment. So if we look down here in the fine print, if we zoom in, we can see that it's individuals with a hobby business are okay as long as it's generating less than $1,000 annual. Now, I definitely plan on breaking that $1,000. So when I do go above this $1,000 in annual revenue, we will have to look at the subscription-based model and just look into more detail about this. So if we continue scrolling down the page, we can see that we can actually activate Fusion 360 for personal use and get started. And then that will take you through how to download this program and get it on your computer. So yes, this is Fusion 360. It is a free tool, but please make sure you're reading all the fine print depending on what you want to do with this tool. But now that we are inside of this tool, let me go ahead and open up one of the programs, or projects rather, that I've been working on, and that is the Xbox controller holder. I did make a video on this a while back, but here it is inside of Fusion 360 and the final model that I made, which is much more impressive than what I was making inside of Tinkercad or any of the other tools that I was kind of messing around with. Now, another quick note that I want to make before I start talking about how to do something like this is actually how this program saves its files. So it's all saved inside of Autodesk Cloud, which is amazing. That means that if I go to this computer, or if I use this program on any computer rather, I can sign into my account and actually get access to my files, which is super cool. Another thing that I absolutely am in love with as a graphic designer and someone who has to constantly go back to a file and make changes is that it actually saves in different versions. So you can see that I have 24 versions of this Xbox controller holder just because of all the iterations that I had to make, and it saves them all in a history. So if there's any point that I want to go back and see any of these variations and see, you know, where I started from and how I got to the point that I'm at now, I can actually go back and look at that, and there's no real like downloading process or anything. I just simply click on them and it will open up an old save file. So if I go ahead and do that for this one here, I can go over to this menu here, hit open, and it's going to open up one of the older save files that I have. So you can see some of the detailing isn't quite there. The color of this object is a little bit different because I wasn't doing any renders with it. But yeah, that is extremely useful as someone who's just learning the tool and who makes mistakes a lot and wants to go back and see, you know, when did I make that mistake or how can I fix that mistake. So I really, really love that this has a cloud-based storage system. So that does mean that it has some online functions and things that you can only do when you are actually connected to the internet, but as far as modeling, if you're just worrying about the modeling, you can actually do that offline, which is really nice. You know, there's a couple of things that you have to do where you have to send it to the cloud, like inside of rendering, which is another workspace that's built in here, so you don't just have to design here and then render someone else. You can actually do quite a few things inside of this tool, but rendering, there's some rendering stuff that has to happen inside of the cloud as well if you want to take advantage of that. So whether you're connected to the internet or not, there will be some functionality that's missing, so just be aware of that. But okay, let's get into the basics of Fusion 360 by jumping into a new design, which we just use this file button up here and create new design. Every design that you start is going to look like this. It's the you know, this view where you can kind of see all three axes, but it's going to give you this grain plating on the background that we can start with. So I'm going to go ahead and change our view to the top with this handy cube up here in the right hand corner, and just start a sketch. And I'm just going to do very, very basics here of just how to make a 3D cube, but I just want to show you some of the functionality and you know, just what you can expect when you first jump into this program. So up here at the top, there's a bunch of different workspaces that we can get into. The one we're currently into is Sketch, which it automatically switches to when we want to start a new sketch. And so this is some of the tools, but if we go ahead and click this drop-down menu, there are a lot more tools that we can get into, even with, you know, multiple uses cases for these tools. But I'm going to start with just the very simple one, which is line, and I'm going to click one point on our grid and start dragging this out. And basically as soon as I saw this is what made me want to switch to Fusion 360, and that is the fact that I get to not only have this line snap to, you know, be vertical or parallel 100% 90 degrees, but also the length of the line. Like, this is something that they are focused on. Like, they want to know, you know, not just what it will look like on your computer screen, but in the real world, what does this line represent? So for someone who wants to make practical things with their 3D printer, you know, knowing what it's actually going to be in the real world is very important. So let's go ahead and say 89, which is about 3.5 inches millimeters, and if I type that in, then this line is going to be 89 wherever I decide to click and actually lock it in. So if we just want a parallel line at 89 millimeters long, I go ahead and click, and then it will start another line, or if I hit the escape key, we'll just have this one line down on our paper. So I can go back up to this line tool, click again, and start dragging this out. The length of this one will make 70, and then we will just click again, trying to make a square here, something very simple, but we can see as we drag this out, you know, if this this number down here at the bottom, when I zoom in, you can see it's 90, which is going to be different than this number up here at the top, which is 89. So instead of just clicking where it snaps to, I can go ahead and type in 89, click, and then finish this cube off by matching up these 2 points, and there we go, we've got a perfect cube. Now, if you used any 3D modeling tools, hopefully, you know, I don't think that's going to be too mind-blowing, but as someone who was just getting started, I was really excited to see, you know, all the measurements right there at the, you know, as you're typing in each line or actually drawing in each line, it's going to tell you these measurements. Now, there's a lot of cool things that you can do, but again, just trying to stick to the very basics here. We're just going to go ahead and take this 2D shape and make it 3D. So you can see as I move this camera around, it is just a 2D shape on a 2D plane, but if I come back up here to this view and right click, there is this press and pull option, which you can get to multiple different ways, but that's the easiest way that I've been doing it, and I can click on this shape, and then I can tell it how far into the third dimension I want it to come. So say I want to make this, you know, an actual cube, so I'll make it 89, which I know the sides are 70, so it's a little bit off, but again, all experimental purposes. So if I move my camera to the side now, we can see that there is an actual cube. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter and lock that value in, and there we go. We have our first cube inside of Fusion 360. So really basic, but I hope that this opens your mind to the type of things that you can do inside of Fusion 360 and hopefully show it in not such an overwhelming way. Now, obviously, that's not enough of an education to get you really started, but if you did want to learn what I think is the absolute best way to learn this tool, if we can go back to the website here on the same page that we're at, we can go to this Learn and Support tab, and built in to their website is an absolutely free resource to learn this tool. So they have this self-paced learning here. If you go ahead and click in here, there is a ton of information right here, especially for getting started, but for doing more things like actually using this for CAM and how to actually understand how to test and validate certain structures that you're making, the tool pathing, just a lot of incredible teaching that's all for free right here inside of their website. So if you hit start learning on this first one, you can see that here are all the lessons that you can go through. And another fantastic thing about having cloud storage means that built right inside of their tool here, if we go back to the home, we can see that they have basic training files that we get to use. And if we go to something like the sculpting here, we can go to the reciprocating saw, which is a file that they talk about inside of that training. In just a few seconds after it downloads, you actually get this file and can start playing around with it and see exactly what they're talking about on the website. So the fact that they have those two things integrated really show that they want you guys to understand this tool, and I think this is the best free way to learn this tool. So I definitely suggest you guys check that out. Now, the last thing that I want to gush about this program on is how easy it makes it to work with a 3D printing slicing software, and the way that you can do that, which there is actually one built into this tool, and admittedly I have not checked that out yet. So if I come up here to this tab and go to manufacturing, there is this whole tab under additive, that's the type of manufacturing that 3D printing is. It's additive, and there's a whole section here that will allow you to actually slice this right inside of this program and print it out. Now, I have been just learning Cura, so before I jump into too many different slicing programs, I wanted to just stick with Cura and know how to use this with this Fusion 360 with Cura, and so the way that I have been doing that is just by saving, or rather exporting, these files as STLs, which is really easy to do. There's no additional tool that we need. Right in here, we can name it whatever we want, we can tell it where we want it to be saved, and then through this drop down menu here, the very last thing, you will actually have to scroll down. It took me a second to figure that out. You have to scroll down and check this STL file, which is something that most, if not all, slicing programs can read and actually export the file then to your 3D printer. And man, I really feel like a salesman for this program right now, but I have just been so incredibly happy with the things that it's enabled me to do so far. We've been making something as simple as cookie cutters inside of this program, but that is kind of the first product that we're going after, really making a lot of and trying to sell over on Etsy. I'm going to have a video on that shortly, so if you're more interested in that side of what I've been doing as far as trying to take 3D printing and turn it into a profitable wing of our business, you can go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss those videos, but you can also comment down below if there's anything you'd like to see me create, or if there's a problem that you think 3D printing could solve. I'm very interested in just using these skills that I am now trying to develop, and if there's a way that I can connect with you guys down in the comments, or actually make a video and a way that I could help you with 3D printing, I'd love to do that. So I'm going to leave some helpful links down in the description if you're interested in anything 3D printing or anything that I personally have going on. That's always a great place to check for information on that. But for now, I'm going to take this excitement and get back into creating some more 3D models, and until the next video, I'll see you guys around.